soft breath fading to silence.
Hello, thank you for tuning in. We'll get started here in just a moment. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in, Justice League. Good to see you. Um, I did take a look, Justice League. I did take a look at uh, Putumayo, Colombia. I did take a look at that area of the world. And so thank you so much for sharing that with me. I have noticed also, again, that they are kind of blocking your messages. I did not see that message until someone else commented on the video. So, yeah, either Mercury retrogrades are at work again or karmic energy is. But got the message nonetheless, and thank you so much for sharing that with me. As I stated a moment ago, we'll get started here in just a moment. We'll give it a few more seconds for others to join in. Hope you are doing well wherever you are. Indeed, great love, great love, great love, Justice League. From back in the day, baby. I just got from back in the day. From back in the day. Spiritual brothers from the same spiritual mother. From back in the day, Justice League. From back in the day, baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are tuned into Esoteric Wisdoms and Spiritual Truths. My name is Nehru. Welcome to your Sunday. Indeed, indeed, Justice League. Welcome to your Sunday. I hope you are doing well. Okay. We are in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, as we have been for some months now. But we are going to continue our journey for our Sunday morning service. We are going to continue our journey through the little known text, the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua. This canonical text covers the history of his journey between the ages of 12 and 30. And you will not, of course, find this in your Bibles. Religious organizations all around the world this morning are preaching that Yeshua was subject to his mother and father for 18 years between 12 and 30. But that is a lie against the truth. They did not sit at home building furniture or building huts or being a carpenter. Mary, the mother, virgin mother who gave birth to him, they released him at the age of 12 to go with a Brahmic prince, a Brahmic prince that was well off, very wealthy. And they released him, Joseph and Mary did, to travel with this Brahmic priest, first to Brahms, to learn of Brahms' laws, from Brahms' sages, from Brahms' alchemists. And then they set off on their journey to go to other places such as Persia, Assyria, Egypt. And we are going to revisit the 48th chapter just for a refresher. They have just returned home or are on their way home for the first time in 12 years. He has not seen his mother Mary. And during the time that he was traveling in the Middle East, Joseph, who was not his biological father, of course, but Joseph, the guardian, passed during the time that Yeshua, falsely called Jesus, was a teenager on his travels. And he got that message. Someone delivered the message to him about Joseph's passing. He sent message on to Mary about comfort, and I believe wrote her some letters to comfort her in her time of bereavement. Okay? So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to Esoteric Wisdom and Spiritual Truths. So we are going to pick it up here. Again, we are going to revisit the 48th chapter where we left off. And again, just as a refresher, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. So in the 48th chapter, and I apologize for the antiquated way in which I do this and the reflections of the lights in the background. I see that, right? So chapter 48 of the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua. You can download this PDF as well if you would like to read ahead. I do not read ahead, but this is one of the texts that I've shared where I've probably been more eager to get to Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time more than any other, because I've been so curious about their journey, so inquisitive about their journey and the truth that is not printed between Genesis and Revelation that man has attempted to hide from us, because man does not want you to know that you are a spirit being first and not a human being on YOLO time, on you only live once time. So let's go ahead and revisit the 48th chapter before we go on. And so in chapter 48, Yeshua receives from the Hierophant his mystic name and number, passes the first brotherhood test, and receives his first degree, sincerity. I don't know, my word's getting twisted. It's Mercury retrograde. Sincerity. Okay. The master took down from the wall a scroll on which was written down the number and the name of every attribute and character. He said, "The circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and 7 is the number of the perfect man." Circle representing completeness. 7, you could be a life path 7 this lifetime around. If you have not calculated that, you can look up how to calculate your life path number. And there are calculators, processes online to help you calculate that. He said, "The circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and 7 is the number of the perfect man. The Logos is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. Divine Source Aravat, the great I am." That name, Aravat, Aravat, or Aravat or Avarat. These are the names that were shown and shared with us through the books of Enoch. Okay, the books of Enoch. Okay, and that is Divine Source's true, authentic, original name, just like Issa's original name on earth is Issa. It is not Jesus. That name did not start to be used until the 17th century. And again, hundreds of years after they were birthed. So originally, Issa, Isa, and Yeshua, Arabic and Aramaic, were their names. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, Charlotte. This Hebrew master, verse 4, this Hebrew master is the Logos of the Holy One, the circle of the human race, the seven of time. And in the record book, the scribe wrote down the Logos circle 7, and that thus was Yeshua known. So from that day forward, in that land and around the nations at that time, he was known as Logos circle 7, the perfect man, the Logos of the Holy One. Okay. The Master said, the Logos will give heed to what I say. No man can enter into light till he has found himself. Go forth and search till you have found your soul, and then return. The guide led Yeshua to a room in which the light was faint and mellow, like the light of early dawn. The chamber walls were marked with mystic signs. It's as if he's walking into an Egyptian temple, or should I say a pyramid or a cave. And in this cave, Mayan temples, and in this cave, he's seeing all these symbols, just like archaeologists have discovered in recent decades and recent times. The chamber walls were marked with mystic signs, with hieroglyphs and sacred texts. And in this chamber, Yeshua found himself alone, where he remained for many days. He read the sacred texts, thought out the meanings of the hieroglyphs, and sought the import of the Master's charge to find himself. So again, even after all the miracles that he had done for 12, 13 years on his journeys, he was still in the process of discovering more about his journey here, who he was created to be, the representation that he was to be in the number 7 as the Logos circle 7, still in hot pursuit, even after all of the miracles and journeys, things that he had learned. A revelation came. He got acquainted with his soul. He found himself, and then he was not alone. And that is the key. That is the key. To find yourself, and therefore realize you were never alone. Thank you so much for those of you who have just come into the room. We are journeying through the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua, and we are currently revisiting chapter 48 before we go on to new readings, beginning in chapter 49. Verse 11, one night he slept at the midnight hour. A door that he had not observed was opened, and a priest and somber guard came in and said, "My brother, pardon me for coming in at this unseemly hour, but I have come to save your life. You are the victim of a cruel plot. The priests of Heliopolis are jealous of your fame, and they have said that you shall never leave these gloomy crypts alive." Verse 14, the higher priests did not go forth to teach the world, and you are doomed to temple servitude. Now, if you would be free, you must deceive these priests, must tell them you are here to stay for life. So this individual, this being, whoever this individual was coming in and telling Yeshua that they had to lie in order to free themselves. You do not have to lie in order to free yourself from anything or anyone. You do not have to lie. Okay? Also, let me mention this. We will be going live immediately following this. We will be going live at approximately 11 o'clock. We will be going live and we will be talking about discerning the intentions of man's heart. And this is a perfect time to speak this, as this being is trying to deceive divine, or trying to deceive Yeshua, Issa, okay, the one sent to save. So we will be going live immediately following this reading at approximately 11 o'clock. Verse 16, and then when you have gained all that you wish to gain, thank you for tuning in, Ebony, I will return and by a secret way will lead you forth that you may go in peace. And Yeshua said, my brother man, would you come here to teach deceit? Am I within these holy walls to learn the wiles of vile hypocrisy? Nay, man, my Father scorns deceit, that is the liar. And I am here to do his will. Deceive these priests, he yells. That's an exclamation point. Deceive these priests, not while the sun shall shine. What I have said, that I have said. I will be true to them, to God, and to myself. And then the tempter left. The tempter. Resist the devil, and they will flee. Whatever form of the devil, whatever form of the low vibrational energy that is. And Yeshua was again alone. But in a little time, a white-robed priest appeared and said, well done, the Logos has prevailed, because he did not allow the tempter to deceive him. The Logos has prevailed, verse 21. This is the trial chamber of hypocrisy. And then he led the way, and Yeshua stood before the judgment seat. And all the brothers stood, the Hierophant came forth and laid his hand on Yeshua's head and placed within his hands a scroll on which was written just one word, sincerity. And not a word was said. The guide again appeared and led the way. And in a spacious room, replete with everything a student craves, was Yeshua bade to rest and wait. So he was placed in this hotel room, for lack of a better word. He was placed in this place where he lacked nothing. There was water there for him. There was food there for him. There was a place to bathe. There was a place to take care of himself. There was a place to study. There were books to read. There were canonical texts and things that had been written before he arrived here in the 3D for him to study, sage texts, etc. This room lacked nothing. Chapter 49, Yeshua passes the second brotherhood test and receives the second degree justice. The second degree justice. We have Justice League in the room with us today. The Logos did not care to rest. He said, why wait in this luxurious room? I need not rest. My Father's work upon me presses hard. Okay. I can personally speak to the energy of, again, needing just 5 hours of rest, and I'm up and I'm ready to go again. Because I am hard after the truths, hard after the things that Divine Source wants to reveal to us, wants to expose, both those high vibrational things and those low vibrational things. So this physical body needs very little rest, and I'm up and I'm at it and I'm ready to go again. One of the slogans of the military, or at least while I was in the United States Army, was we do more before 9 o'clock than most people do all day. Okay, we do more before 9 o'clock a.m. than most people do all day. Okay, was one of their slogans. I would go forth in verse 2. I would go on and learn my lessons all. If there are trials, let them come, for every victory over self gives added strength. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, Melanie. Every victory over self, that is the mind, gives added strength. That is the carnal nature of man. That is the carnal nature of man, the self. And then, verse 3, and then the guide led on, and in a chamber, dark as night, was Yeshua placed, and there left alone. And days were spent in this deep solitude, hermit mode. We have the Hierophant here, okay, already mentioned. So hermit mode, Hierophant. And Yeshua slept, and in the dead of the night a secret door was opened, and in priest's attire 2 men came in, each carried in his hand a little flickering lamp. Approaching Yeshua, one spoke out and said, "Young man, our hearts are grieved because of what you suffer in these fearful dens, and we have come as friends to bring you light and show the way to liberty." Another temptation of the enemy. We once, like you, were in these dens confined, and thought that through these weird, uncanny ways we could attain to blessedness and power. But in a luckful moment, we were undeceived, and making use of all our strength, we broke our chains, and then we learned that all this service is corruption in disguise. These priests are criminals. Just hid away. Verse 8. Thank you so much for all of you who have just come into the room. We are in the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua, chapter 49, verse 8. He is on to his second brotherhood test. That is the second degree, and that test is of justice. Verse 8, they boast in sacrificial rites. They offer to their gods and burn them while alive, or burn while alive, poor birds and beasts, yea, children, women, men. And now they keep you here, and at a certain time may offer you in sacrifice. Verse 10, we pray you, brother, break your chains. Come, go with us, accept of freedom while you may. And Yeshua said, your little tampers, show the light you bring. Pray, who are you? The words of man are worth no more than is the man himself. These temple walls are strong and high. How gained you entrance to this place? The man replied, beneath these walls are many hidden ways. The enemy has many hidden ways, many hidden ways. The man replied, beneath these walls are many hidden ways, and we who have been priests, spent months and years within these dens, know all of them. Then you are traitors, Yeshua said. You are traitors. A traitor is a fiend. He who betrays another man is never man to trust. If one has only reached the plane of treachery, he is a lover of deceit and will betray a friend to serve his selfish self. Behold, you men, or whoever you be, okay, to say whatever you are, your words fall lightly on my ears. Verse 17, could I prejudge these 100 priests, turn traitor to myself and them because of what you say and when you confess your treachery? No man can judge for me. And if I judge till testimony, all is in, let me read that again. No man can judge for me. And if I judge till testimony, all is in I might not judge aright. Okay? Nay, men, or no, by whatsoever way you come, return. My soul prefers the darkness of the grave to little flickering lights like these you bring, like moths to a flame. My conscience rules. What these my brothers have to say, I'll hear. And when the testimony all is in, I will decide. You cannot judge for me, nor I for you. Verse 21, be gone, you men, be gone, and leave me to this charming light. For while the sun shines not within my soul, there is a light surpassing that of sun or moon, of Ra or Hansu. Those are the sun and the moon. Then with an angry threat that they would do him harm, the wily tempers left, and Yeshua was alone, or again alone. Again, verse 23, again the white-robed priest appeared and led the way, and Yeshua stood again before the Hierophant. And not a word was said, but in his hands the masters placed a scroll on which the word suggestive justice was inscribed. And Yeshua was the master of the phantom forms of prejudice and treachery. And Yeshua was the master of the phantom forms of prejudice and treachery. Chapter 50, Yeshua passes the third test and receives the third degree, faith. The Logos waited 7 days and then was taken to the Hall of Fame, a chamber rich in furnishings and lighted up with gold and silver lamps. The colors of its ceilings, decorations, furnishings, and walls were blue and gold. Its shelves were filled with books of masterminds. Verse 3, the paintings and the statutes, were the works of highest art. Okay? The works of highest art. So, Michelangelo types of paintings. And Yeshua was entranced with all this elegance and these manifests of thoughts. He read the sacred books and sought the meanings of the symbols and the hieroglyphs. And when he was absorbed in the deepest thought, a priest approached and said, behold, the glory of this place. My brother, you are highly blessed. Few men of earth so young have reached such heights of fame. Again, he was between the ages of 25 and 30. At this time, Yeshua was. Verse 7, now if you do not waste your life in search for hidden things that men can never comprehend, you may be founder of a school of thought that will ensure you endless fame. Fame. What man approves, fame. What man worships, fame. For your philosophy is deeper far than that of Plato, and your teachings please the common people more than those of Socrates. Why seek for mystic light within these antiquated dens? Go forth and walk with men and think with men, and they will honor you. Because that is what many men and women on this earth still today seek. They seek the honor and the approval of the flesh, of the man, of the woman, of the politician, of the music artist, of the fans. They seek the honor, approval of the earth man. Verse 10, and after all, these weird initiations may be myths and your Messiah hopes, but base illusions of the hour. I would advise you to renounce uncertain things and choose the course that leads to certain fame. And thus, priest, a demon in disguise. Okay, so this priest is a demon in disguise, sung siren songs or siren songs of unbelief. And Yeshua meditated long and well on what he said. The conflict was a bitter one, for king ambition is a sturdy foe to fight. King ambition, the throne, again, and the honor of man, seeking the approval of man. For 40 days, the higher wrestled with the lower self, and then the fight was won. Faith rose triumphant. Unbelief was not. Ambition covered up his face and fled away. And Yeshua said, verse 16, the wealth, the honor, and the fame of earth are but the baubles of an hour. So they last but just for a moment. Today, the fans love you. Tomorrow, they hate you. Today, you have 5,000, 5 million, 500,000 subscribers, followers. Tomorrow, they banish you from their lives. Verse 17, when this short span of earthly life has all been measured out, man's bursting baubles will be buried with his bones. Yea, what a man does for selfish self will make no markings on the credit side of life. On the credit side of life. I'm reminded about accounting. In accounting, you have a debit side and you have a credit side. On the credit side of life is where you want your markings. On the credit side of life. The good that man for other men shall do becomes a ladder strong on which the soul may climb to wealth and power and fame of God's own kind that cannot pass away. I'm going to read that again. Verse 19. The good that man for other men shall do becomes a ladder strong on which the soul may climb to wealth, power, and fame of God's own kind that cannot pass away. Divine gives approval. The divine qualifies you. You qualify yourself. This is not based on man's approval. This is not based on man's credentials, what man says has to be done. This is based on you, your journey, and what divine says yea or nay to. Give me the poverty of men, the consciousness of duty done in love, the approbation of my God, and I will be content. And then he lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, my Father God, I thank thee for this hour. I ask not for the glory of thyself. I fain would be a keeper of thy temple gates and serve my brother man. I'm reminded of something I wrote in my journal that I've shared many times on this channel called For the Work of the Ministry. For the Work of the Ministry. Perhaps I'll share that when we go live after we're done here. And again, that'll be approximately 25 minutes. We'll be going live talking about discerning the hearts and the intents of man. Verse 23, again, as Yeshua called to stand before the Hierophant, again, no word was said, but in his hands the master placed a scroll on which was written faith. And Yeshua bowed his head in humble thanks, then went his way. Chapter 51. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Okay, thank you so much for the likes and the love. Chapter 51, Yeshua passes the fourth brotherhood test and receives the fourth degree, which is philanthropy, giving back, sowing back, giving back to the land, being a supporter of advocacy. When other certain days had passed, the guide led Yeshua to the hall of mirth, a hall most richly furnished and replete with everything a carnal heart could wish. The choicest viands and the most delicious wines were on the boards, and maids and gay attire, that is happy attire, bright attire, joyful attire, that is not homosexual or lesbian attire, served all with grace and cheerfulness. Verse 3, and men and women richly clad were there, and they were wild with joy. They sipped from every cup of mirth. And Yeshua watched the happy throng in silence for a time, and then a man in garb of sage came up and said, most happy is the man who, like the bee, can gather sweets from every flower. The wise man is the one who seeks for pleasure and can find it everywhere, not within himself, everywhere. Okay. The wise man is the one who seeks for pleasure and can find it everywhere. At best, man's span of life on earth is short, and then he dies and goes he knows not where. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in, Oriah. Then let us eat and drink and dance and sing and get the joys of life, for death comes on apace. Okay, so temptations here, right? Talks about how the bee, in verse 4, how the bee seeks to gather sweets from every flower. Okay, from every flower. The other day, in a live divine source led me to share about the 6 petals of the sacral. The 6 petals of the sacral. Hello, CO. Thank you so much for tuning in. The 6 petals of the sacral. This false sage here is now, or deceiver, is now telling Yeshua that it's best if you gather sweets from every flower, as many as you can. It's best to eat, drink, be merry, be sloppy, because it's a YOLO life, is what this false speaker is telling Yeshua. Verse 8, it is but foolishness to spend a life for other men. Behold, all die and lie together in the grave, where none can know and none can show forth gratitude. But Yeshua answered not. Upon the tinseled guests and all their rounds of mirth, he gazed in silent thought. And then among the guests he saw a man whose clothes were coarse, okay, torn, ripped, okay, worn, who showed in face and hands the lines of toil and want. The giddy throng found pleasure in abusing him. They jostled him against the wall, pushing him about, and laughed at his discomfiture. Verse 12. And then a poor, frail woman came who carried in her face and form the marks of sin and shame, and without mercy she was spit upon and jeered and driven from the hall. So they only welcomed high society in here. Does this not sound like secret society? Does this not sound like certain churches? We only like our kind. We only accept a certain kind, a certain level of people, a certain status. You need to have a certain amount of money to enter into this place. You need to have a certain status in order to enter into this place. Oh, wait, you're hungry, you're homeless. We have plenty of food, but we will not give you any. We throw food out every day, but we will not feed you because we need your money in order for you to eat here. You need to pay in order to get this, even though we are simply going to throw it out, much like the world today. Verse 13, and then a little child with timid ways and hungry mind came in and asked for I didn't even read this ahead of time. I just said it. And here's an example. Okay. Came in and asked for just a morsel of their food. But she was driven out, uncared for, and unloved, and still the merry dance went on. I recall one time when I was homeless, during the 3 times that I was homeless, I was on dialysis during this particular time. And when I was on dialysis, again, for those of you who are tuning in and do not know, that was caused by witchcraft. But when I was on dialysis and I was homeless, sleeping in my car out by this lake, I remember this one time I went by this pizzeria that was on the corner. And I went there and I asked this gentleman, the manager, okay, if they had any of those, 10 o'clock at night probably, if they had anything that they were going to discard, because I had not eaten anything in the last 24 hours. And he said, no, we don't give away food. Same experience that this little girl is having. Okay? But they threw out, I'm sure, pounds of food that night. Okay? Verse 15, and when the pleasure seekers urged that Yeshua join them in their mirth, he said, how could I seek for pleasure for myself while others are in want? He's about to receive the degree of philanthropy. How can you think that while the children cry for bread, while those in haunts of sin call out for sympathy and love, that I can fill myself to full with the good things of this life? I tell you nay or no. We all are kin, each one a part of the greater human heart. I cannot see myself apart from that poor man that you so scorned and crowded to the wall, nor from the one in female garb who came up from the haunts of vice to ask for sympathy and love, who was by you so ruthlessly pushed back into her den of sin. Okay, so this could have been a prostitute. This could have been someone who was homeless, but they disregarded her. Verse 20, nor from that little child that you drove from your midst to suffer in the cold, bleak winds of night. I tell you, man, what you have done to these, my kindred, you have done to me. You have insulted me in your own home. I cannot stay. I will go forth and find that child that woman and that man and give them help until my life's blood all ebbed away, okay, or stopped flowing through this physical body. I call it pleasure when I help the helpless, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and speak good words of cheer to those unloved, discouraged, and depressed. That is my great joy. And I'm saying that for my own personal self. That is my great joy, to lift up those who are down, to heal the sick, those who are downtrodden, those who are depressed, those who are being trafficked, those who are being mistreated, those who have no voice in the world. It is my great joy to speak up for them. Today in 2026, it is my great joy to speak up and be an advocate for those who society has pushed aside. And this that you call mirth is but a phantom of the night, but flashes of the fire of passion, painting pictures on the walls of time. And while the Logos spoke, the white-robed priests came in and said to him, "The council waits for you." Then Yeshua stood again before the bar, or before the council. Again, no word was said. The Hierophant placed in his hands a scroll on which was writ, "Philanthropy, philanthropy." And Yeshua was a victor over selfish self. What are we doing with time? 47 minutes, okay. Thank you again so much, everyone, for tuning in. Those of you who are wondering, we are reading the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua. This was translated and released in 1908 by E.S. Dowling, Eva S. Dowling, and released by E.S. Dowling Publishing, E.S. Dowling Publishing in 1908. Chapter 52. Yeshua spends 40 days in the temple groves, passes the 5th brotherhood test, and receives the 5th degree, heroism. The sacred temple groves were rich in statues, monuments, and shrines. Here, Yeshua loved to walk and meditate. And meditate. Walk in Gaia and meditate. And after he had conquered self, he talked with nature in these groves for 40 days. I need to say this for those who are in doubt about meditation and the significance of it. Here's yet another confirmation that even the one that you call Jesus, since the 17th century only, even that being walked and meditated. And after he had conquered self, he talked with nature in these groves for 40 days. And then the guide took chains and bound him hand and foot, and then cast him into a den of hungry beasts, similar to David, of unclean birds and creeping things. The den was dark as night. The wild beast howled. Wolves. I have a dream to share when we go live immediately following this at approximately 11:05-ish. Okay? Immediately after this, I have a dream to share in regards to wolves. The birds in fury screamed. The reptiles hissed. And Yeshua said, "Who was it that did bind me thus? Why did I meekly sit to be bound down with chains?" He's saying, why did I just calmly sit here and let you, why did I sit here and just let you place these chains and bounds upon me? Verse 6, I tell you, none has power to bind a human soul. Of what are feeders made? Of what are feeders made? Need to look that word up. Feeders. And In his might, he rose, and what he thought were chains were only worthless cords that parted at his touch. Interesting. And then he laughed and said, just like I just laughed. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. And then he laughed and said, the chains that bind men to the carcasses of earth are forged in Fancy's shop. Fancy's shop. Reba McEntire's mother, the country singer, Reba McEntire's mother calls her Fancy, or called her Fancy. Okay? Someone could be called Fancy. Forged in Fancy's shop, are made of air and welded in illusion's fires. Verse 9. If man will stand erect and use the power of will, his chains will fall like worthless rags. If man will stand erect and use the power of will, that is the solar plexus chakra, his chains will fall like worthless rags. Hello, Sassafras. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, thank you, Sean, and thank you so much for tuning in. Fetters are restraints. If man will stand erect and use the power of will, his chains will fall like worthless rags, for will and faith are stronger than the stoutest chains that man have ever made. Will and faith. Will and faith. Verse 10, and Yeshua stood erect among the hungry beasts and birds and said, what is this darkness that envelops you, or me, excuse me? What is this darkness that envelops me? 'Tis but the absence of the light. And what is light? 'Tis but the breath of God vibrating in the rhythm of rapid thought. The light is but the breath of God, the breath of divine source, the breath of the great I am, the omnipresent one, Eravat, the air you breathe, the breath of God vibrating in the rhythms of rapid thought. And then he said, let there be light. Let there be light. And with a mighty will, he stirred the ethers. The ethers. The ethers. Do you ever see the word ethers between Genesis and Revelation? The word ethers. And with a mighty will, he stirred the ethers up, and their vibrations, the frequencies reached the plane of light, and there was light. And there was light. In this dark place where all these creeping things, animals roared. The darkness of that den of night became the brightness of a newborn day. And then he looked to see the beasts and birds and creeping things. Lo, they were not. Perhaps because they could see the way out. And Yeshua said, of what are souls afraid? Fear is the chariot in which man rides to death. Fear is the chariot in which man rides to death. This is what I say about fear, and it's closely connected to panic. Most that die in situations in which they panic, that is the reason. Because of fear. So the person who is swimming or who is caught in a current, they often panic. And because they panic, they flap uncontrollably. They lose sight of where they are because they panic because of fear, and they die. Someone who's in a car accident and it's flipped upside down, they panic. They often die, not because they can't get out, or because help doesn't arrive. They die because they panic, because of fear. Fear is the chariot in which man rides to death. And when he finds himself within the chamber of the dead, he learns that he has been deceived. Mm. Mm. His chariot was a myth and death a fancy child. But someday all man's lessons will be learned, and from the den of unclean beasts and birds and creeping things he will arise to walk in light. That is correct, Araya. Yeah. Verse 18. And Yeshua saw a ladder made of gold on which he climbed, and at the top of the white-robed priest awaited him at the top of this ladder. Again he stood before the council bar. Again no words were said. Again the Hierophant reached forth his hand to bless. He placed in Yeshua's hand another scroll, and on this one was written heroism. The Logos, which Yeshua's name was now going by in this land, he was now renamed Logos Circle 7 is his name. Logos Circle 7, the complete man, the Holy One. The Logos had encountered fear and all his phantom hosts, and in the conflict he achieved the victory. The victory. Oh, you're welcome, Charlotte. Okay. We're going to finish up here in chapter 53. And again, I will be going live shortly after this. Okay. And we will be talking about the intentions, discerning the intentions of man and their actions. Yes, that is true. Thank you for tuning in, Angel. So, last chapter of this Sunday's 10 a.m. reading of the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua, chapter 53. Yeshua passes the sixth brotherhood test and receives the sixth degree love divine. I kind of feel like I want to finish up all seven. There are 7 degrees. In all the land, there was no place more grandly furnished than the beauty parlors of the Temple of the Sun. Few students ever entered these rich rooms. The priests regarded them with awe and called them halls of mysteries. Halls of mysteries. Okay? Reminds me of the Vatican. Reminds me of the Vatican, right? When Yeshua had attained the victory over fear, he gained the right to enter here. The guide led on the way, and after passing many richly furnished rooms, they reached the Hall of Harmony. And here was Yeshua left alone. Among the instruments of music was a harpsichord, and Yeshua sat in thoughtful mood, inspecting it, when quietly a maiden of entrancing beauty came into the hall. Okay, I'm getting Samson and Delilah type of information, type of frequency. Okay. She did not seem to notice Yeshua as he sat and mused, so busy with his thoughts. She found her place beside the harpsichord. She touched the chords most gently, and she sung the songs of Israel. Enjoy your day, Aria. Thank you so much, Araya. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your day. And Yeshua was entranced. Such beauty he had never seen. Such music he had never heard. The maiden sung her songs. She did not seem to know that anyone was near. She went her way, and Yeshua, talking with himself, said out, "What is the meaning of this incident? I did not know that such entrancing beauty and such queen-like loveliness were ever found among the sons of men. I did not know that voice of angel ever graced a human form, or that seraphic music ever came from human lips. For days he sat entranced, the current of his thoughts was changed. He thought of nothing but the singer and her songs. He longed to see her once again, and after certain days she came, she spoke, and laid her hand upon his head." And again, you will find this nowhere between Genesis to Revelation. Her touch thrilled all his soul, and for the time forgotten was the work that he was sent to do. So we're talking about a physical temptation here. Okay, we're talking about a physical temptation. Okay, that's lovely to the eyes. Few were the words the maiden spake. She went her way, but then the heart of Yeshua had been touched. A love flame had been kindled in his soul, and he was brought to face the sorest trial of his life. The sorest trial of his life. He could not sleep nor eat. Thoughts of the maiden came, they would not go. His carnal nature called aloud for her companionship. How many of us can relate? Past relationships, okay? And the low vibrational energy that looks good to the eyes, looks tempting to the eyes, okay? Yeah, absolutely. B, thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely smitten, okay, to say the least. All right? And then he said, "Lo, I have conquered every foe that I have met." He's already received 5 degrees, okay? Or scrolls. "And shall I now be conquered by this carnal love?" A carnal love. "My Father sent me here to show the power of love divine. That love that reaches every living thing. Shall this pure universal love be all absorbed by carnal love? Shall the unconditional love of divine source that dwells in each of us be swallowed up by one mere moment of fleshly desire? Shall I forget all creatures else? Lose my life in this fair maiden, though she is the highest type of beauty, purity, and love?" Verse 21, "Into its very depths his soul was stirred, and long he wrestled with the angel idol of his heart. But when the day was almost lost, his higher ego rose in might. He found himself again, and then he said, 'Although my heart shall break, I will not fail in this my hardest task.'" I've mentioned often, or I asked Yeshua or Divine Source, I said, what is it about the heart? What is it about the heart? Why is that the way that so many are deceived? And it is because that is the door to the soul. That is the door to the soul. The soul. And if man can take your soul, then they can control you. If man can take your soul, man or woman, if they can take your soul, then they have full control of you. Okay. Verse 23, Although my heart shall break, I will not fail. In this my hardest task. I will be victor over carnal love. That needs to be someone's affirmation. I will be the victor over carnal love. And when again the maiden came and offered him her hand and heart, he said, Fair one, your very presence thrills me with delight. Your voice is benediction to my soul. My human self would fly with you and be contented in your love. But, all the world is craving for a love that I have come to manifest. I must then bid you go, but we will meet again. Our ways on earth will not be cast apart. I see you in the hurrying throngs of earth as minister of love. I hear your voice in song that wins the hearts of men to do better things. So it wasn't that she was speaking untruths or her songs were strictly seductive. It was that he was focused on his mission and he knew what he was here to do. So he could not allow himself to fall into the false frame or the false curtain of what love was. He was here to show a different type of love, and he had to be about his Father's mission. And then in sorrow and in tears, the maiden went away, and Yeshua was once again alone. And instantly the great bells of the temple rang. The singers sung a song, new song. Singers sung a new song. The grotto blazed with light. The Hierophant himself appeared and said, All hail, triumphant Logos, hail. The conqueror of carnal love stands on the heights. And then he placed in Yeshua's hand a scroll on which was written, Love divine. Love divine. Okay? That is the only love that will never let you down. Okay? Together, they passed from the grotto of the beautiful, and in the banquet hall a feast was served, and Yeshua was the honored guest. Okay? So I think we will go ahead and we will stop it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Again, this has been an hour's sharing and journeying through the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua, released in 1908 by E.S. Dowling Publishing. Again, you can download the PDF today. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Nehru. I am an esoteric guide, spirit guide, here to help awaken the collective, help awaken those who are ready, and to help us further enter into the age of Aquarius. Thank you so much, as always, and be encouraged.